Hey everybody, Joe here. I've got a cool little piece of gear that I'm testing from our friends at NiSi. It's a close-up lens. And unlike when you're using an extension tube and you'd want to have a really wide-angle lens for getting close, in this case, it's really ideal for something like a 70-200, which is what I have here. At 200 millimeters, this lens, just which screws on the front of your lens here. Let me take it off for a second. Here's the piece. This is what it looks like. This just screws onto the front of your lens, and at 200 millimeters, you're getting 1-to-1 macro magnification, which is pretty amazing. So I was taking a walk this morning, just along my driveway here, and came across some really pretty flowers. So before it starts to rain, let's go ahead and take a look and see what we can get. All right, so here's one of the little flowers I found, and I was going to photograph them right here on location, but the light isn't that great. It looks like it's going to start raining, and we'll have a lot more control in the studio. But just to give you an idea how tiny the flowers are that I'm going to be photographing, and you can see right next to my finger, there they are. And this is going to allow us to get 1-to-1 with this accessory lens. So by putting this filter on front of a 70-200 millimeter lens, I can focus. Let's see how close I can go and actually fill the frame with this thing. It is almost completely filling the screen from that far away. So 1-to-1 magnification with a simple screw-on filter on front of your lens. Let's see what we can do with it in the studio. So I had to get out of the heat, so I decided to hop up to our orbiting starship around the planet. It's much cooler up here. There's just no humidity out here in space. So I've got my close-up lens right here. And the beauty of this, again, as I showed you outside earlier, is that this just screws onto the front of your lens. The default is 77 millimeters. If your lens is a different size, then it comes with a pair of adapter rings, 77 down to 72 and down to 67. You can, of course, buy step-down rings or step-up rings for pretty much any lens possible. There was also a smaller version of this, a 58 millimeter, which is ideal if you're using an APS-C camera. If you're doing a full frame, this is a good choice. And this thing really sings on a 70-200 lens because it just gives you so much magnification. In fact, at 200 millimeters, this is actually 1-to-1, which means whatever the size of the thing is you're photographing, it's going to be that size on the sensor, which means really close. It's that simple to use. You can maintain your autofocus if you like. I find for macro, I prefer going to manual. And if I was really doing really serious macro, rather than doing hand holding, I would put it on a focusing rail. And that would allow me to make fine adjustments with the camera back and forth to really fine tune the focus. However, let's keep it simple for now. We'll get into that another time. I just wanted to recreate the set that I used a couple weeks ago to create some shots of some small flowers. And a lot of people asked about it, so let me show you how to do that. I started out with just a small background stand, and I just put a piece of an old roll of printer paper that I had that I'm going to put behind my plexiglass. So I've got my piece of black plexiglass here. I've also got a piece of white just off camera, so we can try it both ways. I'm a real big fan of the black. In fact, putting the black in front of the white paper adds a really nice reflection to it that really makes things shine. One of the nice things about white plexiglass is you can light it from underneath, which really makes the background just disappear and allows you to focus on the object itself. So let's go ahead and set that up. I'll see you right back here. So you can see I've got my 70-200 mounted on a tripod. I'm pointing down so I can get just pure black. I've moved the white paper off to one side so that the white goes away. To bring that white back and make the background lighter, all I need to do is just put it back kind of in the way reflecting wise. And that will then cast the white onto the black, which is going to make it much lighter. Very simple to do. I find focusing manually is a much easier way to do this. Keep in mind, however, that at this kind of magnification, we're close to 1-to-1 here. You have a very shallow depth of field. I'm at f18, and when you're in that close, f18 is still going to give you like this much depth of field. So what if you want to do this and you want to shoot something that's got depth of field, like the entire head of the thing is in focus? Then you have to do something called focus stacking. And what you need to do is each time you shoot, you need to move your focusing ring a little bit I like to start at the closest thing and then slowly move back. And you might find yourself shooting 5, 10, 15, even 20 shots. And then they have to be composited together. Now, can you do it in Photoshop? Yes, the software can do it, but actually it's quite annoying. The software you want to have for this is called Helicon Focus, and you simply load all the images in. I bring them into Lightroom first and then JPEG them because I don't need that huge a file for this macro stuff. And then it just automatically composites. It's amazing. Even though you're actually technically moving the lens a little bit, like changing the elements, changing the perspective when you change your focus, it just fixes it automatically for you. It's pretty amazing. Now, if I really was going to get into manual focusing and do focus stacking, rather than touch the lens and do that refocusing, I'd prefer to use a focusing rail. Subject for another day, I'll get into that. I have a new one coming in shortly. I'll show you when it gets here. But focusing rail allows you to not touch the camera, not touch the focus, and with just very small adjustments, you can take the entire system and move it back and forward. Now, again, you're going to think, well, the perspective is changing. Yes, it is. You're getting a little closer, a little further away. But again, Helicon Focus just fixes it all automatically for you. So I've got this really interesting and pretty thistle. I'm going to take a couple more shots of this, and I'm going to get a couple other little tiny flowers and bring them in just to show you what it can do. So again, for very little money, you get a really powerful macro system that'll basically fit on pretty much any lens. You just get the adapter ring to fit the thread of your filter mount on your lens, and you're good to go. And you can get different adapter rings to fit different size lenses. Again, as I mentioned, there's also a smaller one for smaller cameras. This is, again, the 77mm. There's also a 58 if you're doing APS-C or smaller cameras. Great tool. Great accessory. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I'm not really typically a macro guy, but it really does open new worlds and allow some interesting creative stuff. So enjoy it. I hope you enjoy it. Take a closer look, and I'll see you online again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.